These two guys have Minnesota sports flowing in their veins. Mackie and Judd on SKOR North and SKORNorth.com.
Reckless speculation.
Reckless speculation.
That's right. It's a Reckless Speculation Thursday. A scoop session and a Reckless Speculation Thursday with our friend Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department. He was out at mandatory minicamp. We will do a Judd's Camp Notes edition of Purple Daily today, so check that out. But Doogie was out there yesterday as well.
Bonded. We were bonding.
You guys bonded yesterday?
Serious bonding.
That's good.
We did. We bonded both sides of the field.
Yep.
I even walked a little behind. Judd was more bonding with Kevin Seifert in that moment, but we crossed the field at the same exact time. So, we were
I got
in
a lot of
lockstep.
friends out there. It's one of the few places that Sports Dad has a lot of friends. Let's just say that.
You feel at home on a Vikings practice field.
Amen.
Well, let's start just Vikings. You were out there. You were talking to players and people with the team. So wherever you want to start Vikings related here on this scoop session and Reckless Speculation Thursday, fire away.
Well, I mean, I did talk with Cam Bynum about the potential of a contract extension. He paused, just reading his body language, deferring to his agent, saying, hey, that's on my representation to handle. But my sense is there is mutual interest in getting an extension done, whether it's right before training camp, late July, or perhaps comparable to Josh Metellus this time last year, Metellus signing an extension right before the opener against Tampa. It could be one of those situations where he signs an extension before the opener against the New York Giants. But keep an eye on Cam Bynum in a contract year. The Vikings want to keep him here for the foreseeable future. Mutual interest, the Vikings getting a Cam Bynum extension done. Also had a nice conversation with Dalton Risner. I'm shocked. I still can't figure out why the league doesn't like him. Is there
weird.
steam from his time in Denver? I mean, I get it, not a great run blocker, but it's a passing league, really good pass blocker. But he told me, legitimately, there wasn't interest. He goes through the agent change, thinking Drew Rosenhaus could pick up interest across the league. It never happened. And I didn't think he'd be back because the Vikings weren't willing to negotiate. It was a take it or leave it type deal. We now have the numbers that were filed with the Players Association, the numbers that came out earlier this week. I dropped the nugget in this space last Thursday that it was a very team-friendly contract. You look at the numbers, Judd, it's an incredibly team-friendly contract. It screams if he doesn't play well at all in August, he's not going to be here in September. And so I am floored that the league, it didn't have interest in Risner. And he was very open and honest about that.
It's weird, too, because, to your point, was it the sideline meltdown with Russell Wilson, or I think it was the backup QB in Denver back in the day?
Yeah, Rippon, yeah.
Is there a locker room component? Because he comes off as a great guy, but is there a component that we don't know? It is weird because, you know what? 10 to 15 years ago, you could explain this away as, well, guards don't really get paid like Hutch did, but most guards, but that's not the case now. I mean, guards in day one of free agency this year in March were getting paid. So it's okay, he's not an elite guard, but I certainly don't think that the panel here would say he sucks.
Well, the Vikings thought he was a starting caliber guard last year for 2/3 of the season.
But Dukes is on to something. I would love to know, this is a very weird one. There's something we don't know, I think, for sure.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the incentives, right? I mean, what's he guaranteed? 600? I don't have the numbers exactly in front of me. But, I mean, the contract screams he has to perform in August to be here in September after starting games last year. C.J. Ham, others are making significantly more money than Dalton Risner. I mean, right now, Brandel is absolutely the betting favorite to start at left guard. Ed Ingram is the betting favorite to start at right guard. Now, I still wonder, could Brandel potentially move to right guard? Is Risner your opening day left guard? I see a pretty
Ingram
good player there.
Yeah.
I do. And so it's hard for me to think that Dalton Risner isn't the starting left guard in early September at the New York Giants. But the contract says, hey, he has to earn it. And I never thought in a million years we would be talking about this.
Yeah, there's something being unsaid publicly about what teams think of him either as a player or a person that's driving his value down to this
Correct.
sort of contract.
I mean, the Vikings had this deal on the table going back a while, right? So the fact that he didn't take it, like I didn't think it would happen, but finally he said, okay, like I don't want to wait until September again, right? I don't even want to wait until late July, early August. Like I want to start training camp on time. I really like it here in Minnesota. My wife likes it here. Okay, let's just take this deal. I feel confident in my abilities. I'll hit all those incentives, so I'll end up earning a couple $1 million.
Yep.
But like, you look at the numbers, it's just,
Well,
it's really, really hard for me to explain. It really is.
hey, Dukes, let's talk about the pass rushing ends, because I've noticed, especially on the field, a significant difference from 2023 to 24. And it's not just that Daniil's gone. It's this. When you look at right now, Dallas Turner and Jonathan Grenard, it is interesting. How can I phrase this? The body types, okay? Daniil was huge. Like that guy, and I'm not saying fat huge. That dude had no fat. But I mean, this was a mammoth man with huge arms. And you look at Grenard and Turner, and Turner's young too. But Grenard to me is extremely interesting. It appears to me that without saying it, that Brian Flores and the Vikings in free agency and just as a roster construction thing for their rush ends have put a premium on leaner looking guys, almost linebackers, and in the defense technically that they are considered outside rush linebackers. But have you noticed that there does seem to be, and I don't know if this is for zone blitz purposes of dropping guys back into coverage or what, but there definitely seems to be a different body type desired for the top rush ends compared to what the previous regime used.
Well, and long arms. Like
Right,
Dallas
yeah.
Turner's arms are incredibly long. Grenard, do you know what his arms are?
I don't,
Does he
but
have
he is
long
leaner.
arms?
But I mean,
He's
he is
definitely
not
leaner.
he's not a huge man. He is definitely looks quicker.
I will say my thought is Ryan Grigson. Like, is that a Ryan Grigson? Like, is there any history from his time running the Indianapolis Colts, his fingerprints on everything going on in the Vikings front office? Is that a Ryan Grigson thing? Not that it's wrong, by the way. But yes, I mean, it's an astute observation, Judd. I'm with you on that. But yeah, I mean, Dallas Turner's got those really, really long arms. It is an interesting, yeah. I mean, I don't know the root of it. I'm just saying, like, reckless speculation Thursday here, right? Like, I'm thinking, knowing Ryan Grigson a little bit, is that a Grigson thing? Phil, do you have any idea on Grigson's Indianapolis background? What he thinks of pass rushers, edge rushers?
I don't, but I will say this. I mean, Micah Parsons is this prototype now in terms of size. Like if you go back and look 20 years ago, Reggie White was like 200. He was like 300 pounds. Javon Curse, these massive Michael Strahan, these guys were 275 plus, right? In terms of weight, 6'4". There's this Micah Parsons type breed now, and you can't just replicate Micah Parsons. Where you don't have to be this giant freak anymore. The NFL is, the passing games are quicker, everything is faster, and I think defenses and coordinators and coaches and front offices are looking for, you don't have to be the biggest dude as long as you can like get past an offensive tackle or get around on a stunt or a twist. It feels like speed and quickness are more of a priority than sheer size when it comes to those edge rushers. That's my take on it.
Well, I mean, I think there is something to be said about that take. I mean, even Judd, you think about just the way they used Metellus last year, right?
Right.
I mean, all the linebacker snaps, however you want to define his Swiss Army knife type role, right? That there is something to be said about what Phil just said about, just athleticism. You don't need to be the biggest dude in the world. I mean, even look at Blake Cashman. I mean, I think Blake fits that mold in many ways. So, yeah, I think there is something to be said about what Brian Flores is looking at in terms of the athletes that he wants on his defense. Another interesting thing that Cam Bynum told me that I guess I didn't think about. I mean, Cam is entering his fourth year. He goes, finally, there's some continuity. He's like, there's not all this change with the defense. So there's enough carryover from 23 to 24. He goes, I didn't really have that earlier in my Vikings career. So I know that he's cherishing that opportunity that, still a little bit baffling to me. I get it. He's suing the league. But I thought there might just be some sort of courtesy interview. Like the fact that Brian Flores never even got a courtesy interview for a head coaching job.
Odd. I agree with that.
I thought, at least an interview. Wasn't necessarily thinking he's going to get a job, although I thought, and even if New England was all about Gerard Mayo, that's fine. I thought maybe just with his Patriots connections, there might be an interview just to get his name out there. But, nothing, zero. But I know Bynum is loving the fact that, there's all this carryover from 23 to 24.
But, selfishly, if you're the Vikings, you love this, right? Privately,
of course you do.
And
yes.
I talked about this with Phil and Dex a couple of days ago. If you think about this, Dukes, 2025, I think, is going to be a foundational year. Like you're going to build, right? But what you would really love is to keep Flores through 2026. Or I'm sorry, through 2025, because this team could easily pop then. And I will say, I think one of the biggest mistakes that we all make is a guy like Flores leaves, and then you take his best position coach and make him DC, and we're all like, oh yeah, it's going to be the exact same. How many times have we seen that? And it's not. So selfishly, I think that you sort of hope that Flores doesn't get a real sniff until after at least 25, because that takes you into a really interesting year there. And I mean, this guy has proven he is just damn good. And to O'Connell's credit, it looks like it's hands off, basically. I don't think.
It absolutely. Yes.
Yeah, I don't think he's.
Not that he's not sitting in on meetings, but
right.
Yeah, he's not nitpicking. It's very much deferring to Flores. As long as the litigation is pending, This is the longest. Everything is drawn out, right, court-wise, it seems, but as long as the litigation is pending, he's not getting a head coaching job. Like, if you can't even get an interview going back to January, like based on the body of work the Vikings defense produced in 23, if he couldn't earn an interview, and hey, it's not like he was a train wreck in Miami. If he couldn't even earn an interview in January, as long as the litigation is pending, him suing the league, he's not getting an interview. So, all signs point to, unless this thing gets sped up, all signs point to him being here in 25, and the Vikings spending a lot of money come next March in free agency. And really laying the foundation, yes, in some ways this year, but yes, 25 is going to be that big year.
Dukes, what's your take on the tight end room right now? What are you hearing about the TJ Hawkinson timeline? Robert Tonyan comes in to complete his journey around the NFC North, with the Vikings being the final piece. And then N'Keal Harry, former first-round pick wide receiver by the Patriots, maybe to try and extend his career, they're moving him to tight end. So there are a lot of moving pieces in that tight end room right now. What are you seeing and hearing?
Yeah, on N'Keal Harry, he told me yesterday that was Kevin O'Connell's idea, not his idea. So he was all for it, right? If there's a pathway to seeing the field, he's like, okay, right? But it wasn't N'Keal's idea to move to tight end. That was a Kevin O'Connell idea. But yeah, that is a crowded tight end room. They still like Nick Muse, right? Yeah. You still have Johnny Munt, Josh Oliver. Like, there's a lot of guys there. They're not keeping all those tight ends. I hear Hawkinson is doing everything he needs to do, but like, you go back to when he had the surgery, right? They had to wait for swelling to go down. So the surgery, to undergo the surgery, it took a while. It's not like he underwent surgery on January 3rd or January 4th. It was many weeks after that. And so you look at a realistic timeline, like early September just was never realistic. Now, is it 4 weeks? Is it 5 weeks? Strategically looking at when the Vikings bye is, maybe him being back right after the bye with the early bye makes some sense. But like, I haven't heard that TJ Hawkinson is going to be ready to go for that opener against the Giants. But they have a lot of guys. Like, they still really like Johnny Munt. And so,
first team work
who
yesterday.
Stays, who goes? Tonyan, nice guy. Had a really nice conversation with him yesterday. He said, hey, 23 didn't go as I planned.
He barely
motivated.
Played.
Yeah, he didn't. He goes, hey, I can still be the player that I was in Green Bay. Still feel like I can play at a pretty high level. But is Robert Tonyan, is he guaranteed a roster spot? He's going to have to earn it, I think, in August. So that's as fascinating a position to me as there is, as we think about July into August, watching training camp, seeing some battles, who stays, who goes, because they have a lot of tight ends on that 90-man roster right now.
So they kept 4 on the 53 because Muse was on the not on the active game day roster always, but like Muse was on the roster. He wasn't a practice squad guy. So they kept 4: Muse, Oliver, Munt, and Hawkinson. So if Hawkinson starts the season on the PUP or the injured reserve list, whatever it would be, and they keep 4, we're talking, barring a trade of somebody, we're talking Josh Oliver, probably Johnny Munt. They love him in the system.
They
right?
love him. Yeah, I don't see them cutting Johnny Munt.
Nick Muse, and then either Tunyon
Muse
or
is
N'Keal
fringe,
Harry.
though. That's the question. So I think there's 2 discussions here. One is with Hawkinson back, your primary receiving tight end is set. But with, let's say he's out the first month at least. The primary receiving tight end is probably Munt, but the job is open too. So like that's where this gets to be. And look, a guy could actually theoretically play a key role in, let's say, the first 4 to 7 games and then get replaced. But in that time, especially I think with Darnold at quarterback, you're going to need someone that you can rely on, definitely. Now, Munt was with the first team, or has been the past 2 days, but I think that there are some very intriguing options here. And Harry, at least, is an intriguing option because if he can get the position down, he's got the ability and hands in the red zone. So, like, I think it's 2 discussions. One is life without Hawkinson to start with, and then it should stabilize once he comes back. And a guy who might play a key role at the first part might not play much, or heck, might be cut after that.
Yeah, I mean, it probably comes down to, okay, so no Hawk. Depending on what you think of Oliver in the passing game. He actually showed me a little bit more in the passing game last year
He's athletic
than I thought, but maybe not as much in the blocking portion of his skill set. I mean, he was such a good blocker in Baltimore. Saw it at times last year, but I don't think I was ever like,
They didn't
wowed.
run enough, though, I didn't think.
Well, yeah, I mean, that was part of the issue, sure. Yeah. But, like, depending on what you think of Oliver's pass-catching skills, I mean, could it come down to Tunyon against Harry? Do they keep one, not both, right? And so that could be the position battle to watch come August, who wins out between those 2.
Boy, I'm telling you, if you came to Reckless Speculation Thursday for some, like, 4th and 5th tight end on the depth chart speculation, then you are satisfied today.
Let's talk about cornerback, too. Like, if you want to recklessly speculate, we're talking Jobs. Jobs being in trouble right now. I mean,
Andrew Booth is going to have to win a job in August. Yes. He is not guaranteed a roster spot.
Yeah, he's basically there as much as I'm there, or you're there. In other words, he's basically watching and then playing some backup. But
and they like Kyrie Jackson, right? The 3rd round pick.
I mean, 4th round, yeah.
4th round.
And he's not with like the first teamers. So Kyrie Jackson is probably ahead of Booth, and Kyrie Jackson has to establish himself. So like this is, it's Shaq Griffin, Byron Murphy Jr., Mekhi Blackman, and Evans.
They're not cutting a 4th round pick either.
Everybody else.
You don't cut 4th.
I agree with you.
Kyrie
They're not cutting
Jackson's on the roster.
Jackson's on the roster.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean,
so then Booth is at best the 6th cornerback.
Yeah, and is he good enough on special teams? That's my quick question, because my contention with Cena's not going to make this team, because what is it you say you do well?
I still think it could translate special teams-wise. I know we need to see it with Cena. I feel a little bit better in this moment in early June. I feel a little bit better now thinking that Cena is on the roster in September, not Booth. Subject to change. Circle back to me in mid-August. But right now, I feel a little bit better about Cena making the roster.
Both could be gone.
It's going to be a very sort of triggering question, because I think the Vikings are in a really nice spot roster-wise going into next spring. You've got a bunch of great pillars at wide receiver, offensive tackle. You've got maybe your quarterback of the future. You're also tinkering with a former top 5 pick in Sam Darnold. Like, a lot of nice things happening. Edge rushers. Imagine where they'd be at, and the cap space and the 1st round pick next spring. Where would you be at if you had nailed the 2022 1st and 2nd round picks? If you had Kyle Hamilton,
that is triggering.
and anybody else in the second or third round that would have panned out. Like this team would be top of the NFC potential if you get the quarterback right. And they might still be in that mix if you use your cap space wisely and nail a 2025 first round pick. But man, like
Hamilton is so good.
Just the Kyle Hamilton thing. If you had Hamilton,
they just didn't love him.
Bynum,
they didn't. I've said that many times. They didn't love him pre-draft. I don't know why, but yes, it was so obvious. He was the consensus top safety. You ended up going safety with your first pick, but they didn't like him.
Yeah. Well, can't bat 1,000 in the scouting world, unfortunately.
1,000?
No.
We'll get to the rest of Doogie's scoop bag here in just a second, but let's talk about Finch Home Solutions here, looking to help you with your electrical situation.
I have to calm down because I'm going to transition from a conversation that is a hot button to a conversation that I absolutely love because it's the only button to push, and that is the button of our friends at Finch Home Solutions. Look at those vans. Absolutely fantastic. I'm going to tell you right now, you know what? Springtime and summertime, remodeling time, right? The kitchen, perhaps, a bathroom. Guess what you got? Guess what you need? An electrician who is great at what they do, and that is truly Cody Finch and his team. Finch Home Solutions, they're outstanding. And by the way, if you are a Purple Daily viewer or listener, spend over $500 and you're going to get $100 off. No dispatch fee for educators in the month of June and 10% off. So if you are a teacher, school ends today. Hooray. Guess what? It's time to do some stuff around the house. Finch Home Solutions has a deal for you. 612-357-2604 or finchhomesolutions.com. Finchhomesolutions.com. Get the best in town and save while doing so.
Also, we've got the Twins coming back in a few days for a lengthy homestand. A homestand that, by the way, includes on June 13th, Prince Night. First 5,000 fans at Target Field get a Prince Cup. The Flo Rida post-game concert on June 14th.
Yeah, so a week from tomorrow.
See you
Old
there.
Macadac is going to be probably in attendance for that one.
Went down for real, huh?
Wow, Judd, look at Judd.
It's the promo on every Twins game. It's the promo on every Twins game. Molitor, Perkins, they all have read it. So,
Well, Judd, they say you are a wild one, you know. So all sorts of fun things happening at the ballpark. Twins.com/tickets. Twins.com/tickets. This will be the second Flo Rida concert that Macadac has seen in a stadium. The other one being in the middle of WrestleMania in Miami in 2012, I want to say.
Nice.
Flo Rida did Wild Ones was like the theme of
Oh,
the WrestleMania season that year. And he performed it live right before The Rock versus John Cena.
He also it was pre-Super Bowl. So what year was that? Was that 18?
18.
Yeah.
Yeah, January of 18.
play here.
Some random warehouse in Minneapolis, North Loop.
Oh, like a
I
private
wasn't very
private party
sober,
thing?
but I saw him. I can't recall if he was good or bad, but I was there. I was physically there. Maybe not mentally all the way there, but I was there.
Yeah. By the way, it took me way too long to figure out that his name spells Florida.
Yeah.
It did? It took you a while to figure that.
Probably a couple of years. Yeah.
Even Sports
Probably
Dad
couple.
looked at it and was like, "Oh, that's Florida."
It's very shameful for me to admit that, but yeah. Flo Rida. Anyways, what's in your scoop bag here, Dukes? Give us
Well,
anything
one
else?
more Vikings observation from yesterday. It was a good Sam Darnold day. Like, I've never heard the Vikings trying to push J.J. McCarthy into that opener against the Giants, but I guess just being there yesterday, just further confirmation. Like, this is Sam Darnold's team for a while. Like, I don't think we're going to see McCarthy. I mean, maybe it's November, December. Like, I can't pinpoint an exact date, but like, any thoughts of McCarthy starting early in the season? Like, it's not going to happen. I mean, Judd, we talked about this yesterday. Let's carry it into on air. Like, Mullins v. McCarthy. Let's watch that in August. And if JJ demonstrates enough, then maybe you make a Nick Mullins trade, right before cut down day. But it's entirely possible Mullins is the number 2. Like, if Sam Darnold, God forbid, but gets hurt early in the season, that it's Nick going in, not JJ. So I'm just trying to temper any sort of expectations. I don't know if I've seen wild expectations on McCarthy playing early in the season, but I'm just saying, like, my sense is that's not happening.
The approach to McCarthy also looks very intentional. Like there's no, it's not like you show up.
Even the media stuff, like they're just like,
yep. So it's
he was supposed to talk yesterday. They now moved that to next week. So I don't know if there was a strategy behind that. But Sam Darnold will talk after practice today, but McCarthy will be now next week.
But, there's times that you show up to a practice, especially with a first-round QB, and there's like an anticipation of, I can't wait to see this guy. And that anticipation might exist among us with McCarthy, but it's very clear. Like he's on the secondary field, as we talked about in Judd's camp notes a couple of days ago, Phil. Like everything that they are doing internally is to dial it down, which I will continue to say I think is smart.
Yeah,
very smart. Yes.
Like I said, it feels like they're going out of their way. Not that they aren't putting photos of him out once in a while, but the Vikings as an organization have clearly said, let's not put him front and center. Let's not. Now, if you're us, we can tell on Purple Daily, people want JJ McCarthy updates. So the Sports Dad on Judd's Camp Notes episodes, we're going to give you JJ McCarthy updates. Like he will be front and center a lot still. Purple Daily and SKOR North and other media outlets. But the Vikings clearly have made an effort to say, let's not put extra pressure on this kid. Vikings Entertainment Network, why don't you go show some other players here and there? So that's their strategy to keep the pressure off him.
Just show a ton of Tanyan.
Here's the 5th string tight end battle happening right now at TCO Performance Center. Dukes, what else is left in your scoop bag before we say goodbye?
Well, I mean, so, we talked about this on Tuesday. Hey, the possibility of Tim Connolly pushing back his opt-out date. Well, here we go. Right? So he's here. Now, where was he going? We talked about this on Tuesday. I get it. He's highly thought of. But, like, even a Ballmer wasn't going to buy out Lawrence Frank, 3 weeks before the draft, 4 weeks before free agency and say, okay, Tim, come on in. Like, just Tim didn't have any leverage. So the fact that Tim, his representation, was able to negotiate this new deal with a little bit of a tick up money-wise, he's not making $15 million a year, anything crazy like that, but he's making significant money, especially compared to what he was making a couple years ago in Denver. But, like, it's a real possibility. Like, we'll have to keep an eye on it. But Tim Connolly leaving in a year, there's a reason why he has that opt-out clause. Now, if it's Mark Lowry, Alex Rodriguez in charge, I see Tim here for a while. He loves those guys. If it's not those guys in charge, I'm just saying we have to think about the real possibility of Tim Connolly being elsewhere 1 year from now.
Yeah. Interesting. He is Darren Doogie Wolfson from the 5 Eyewitness News Sports Department, delivering inside information about
one more
your favorite
Wolves note.
Minnesota
Monte
sports
Morris, unrestricted free agent. I would say there's a decent amount of optimism the Wolves can get him back on a vet minimum type deal.
Judd waving goodbye. Here's my take.
Pay him or play him? I'm sorry.
Well, he
wasn't healthy.
Okay.
He wasn't in great shape either. Like, so give him a full summer of ramping up like he's accustomed to. Monte Morris can still be a capable backup.
He had a leg injury that derailed his first part of the season. He's a good player with a good track record. I'm with Dukes. I think whoever he plays for next year, he's going to be a good 15 to 25 minute a night guy. So
I would agree. And the Wolves feel that way. So Jordan McLaughlin likely gone. I think they end up drafting somebody that can handle the ball at 27 or 37. Cam Christie, by the way, in. I think it's tomorrow for a Wolves workout. But point is, like, they still feel very confident about Monte Morris's ability. So I'm just saying I can see that marriage continuing.
I like it. There he is, folks. Darren Doogie Wolfson.
I need to go get some
Eyewitnesses.
drugs.
Dude, you're struggling here.
What's wrong?
Run out of gas.
Allergies or something. I don't know. Maybe I've got the Rona. I have no idea. I don't know what's going on.
Dex, why don't you go in there and find out? Is it the Rona or is it allergy?
Yeah, just breathe right into my face. Just
How about Eddie Julian, Declan? First pitch he sees. That's something the Twins told
Doesn't
Eddie.
count.
Hey, you go down to St.
Fastball.
Paul.
Doesn't
Start
count.
swinging at that first
Sources
pitch.
tell me it's a fastball.
Doesn't count. Fastball.
That's a non-home. You know what? -1 as far as I'm concerned.
It's got to be a sweeper at minimum in terms of break before we count it.
Give me Brooks Lee.
Oh, well.
Bring him up.
You know what? It's June 6th. I'll put the over-under on Brooks Lee being in the Twins lineup 1 month from now, July 6th.
Oh, it's happening.
Oh, that's quick. It's going down for real with Brooks Lee, huh?
No, I'm just saying, over-under 1 month from now. All right, boys.
All right. Darren
All right,
Doogie
I'll see you out
Wolfson
in Egan. See you, Judge.
Thanks, Duke.
and the Sports Dad. Jazzy Judd Zulgad.
Got them apple bottom jeans too there, Judd.
It's my guy.
Boots with the fur. The whole club was
We should all
looking
go
at
to
her.
the Flo Rida concert together.
I can't wait for the concert now.
Let's make it happen. All right, there's your scoops here on Minnesota Sports with Mackey and Judd. Sports Dad with some camp notes on Purple Daily today. Don't miss that.